Alright, from start to finish, first thing I have to do is take my scope off. Obviously, now I'm going to take a 5. Take the stock off. Set that to the side. Make sure my rifle's decocked. I'll pull it half the way back. It's decocked. Now, release all the air out of it with this flathead screw behind the gauge. There it is. Make sure your screwdriver's enough to fit in there, because sometimes you'll hit the gauge and have to looks like my O-ring blew up, so I'm going to have to take my gauge off with a overkill wrench here. Because this is all I have right now. I want to make sure I didn't mess that O-ring up on that air release screw. There's no air in the gun now. Now we take our back plate off here. Take this back plate off, but you must first loosen that set screw on the side of the gun here. The set screw has to come out, and then you can take this back plate off. This is a Generation 2 blitz. So trying to remember what this little screw is, a 2.5. Is exactly what it is, a 2.5 for this little set screw holding this black back plate on. You don't have to take it all the way out. Now I use some snap ring pliers for inside them holes there to just take this back plate off. Telling you what, taking this trigger out is some risky business, trying to line that safety back up. And there's your hammer spring. Took the back plate off. I have my hammer spring and back plate. Let's set that to the side. And inside this hammer, there is a little bushing that goes in there a certain way. If you put it in backwards, you're not going to have the power that you're supposed to have. So, just telling you that. Now I want to take this plate off, because the sear is going to pop up. I'm going to have to put it back. Now these little screws on your blitz, if they have not been replaced like mine have been replaced, and they have been tapped out to a little bit bigger size and replaced, because I stripped them little bitty ones that were in here. I'm going to take this sear out. this pin also comes out. Let me show you. Let me get a closer view here. This sear comes out off of here, and then also this little pin comes out right here. So be careful you don't lose it. It only goes in there one way. Move this stuff out of the way a little bit better so I don't knock stuff over. Now you also have that little pin right there that came up with a spring under it. I do not know if there's a BB or ball under there, so do not lose this flipping your gun around. I'll close my hammer right now so that pin can't come up and out right now, but we're going to be taking this handle off in a minute. So now I want to turn the gun around, take this plate off, remember use the right size Phillips head for these or you will strip the heads of them, and if you tighten them too tight you will strip the aluminum block that they screw into. So be careful. Also, these gears in here have to go back a certain way. That rod has to be in there. I'll get the rod with you in just a minute. This rod inside the barrel has to be in there. We shouldn't have to take that rod out. There's the back plate. There's your gears in there. We're going to have to take those out. Now inside, in the middle of this gear right here, there's a little brass or copper bushing. It will come out of that gear. So be careful with it and make sure it goes in the same way you take that out. Mine was really loose. So we took that top gear off. It has bushings on it also. Make sure they go in the same way they come out. Just like so. So one of them actually stayed inside of the bolt. I'm going to take it out though and put them to the side. And we're going to take that middle gear out right there. And that brass, see that brass bushing stayed on there? I'm going to want it out so I don't lose it. This pin, this gear right here, you want to lift it up. Take it out, set it to the side. And we can turn this back over. Take our bolt handle off. I believe it is a 5 as well. It is a 5. There's my bolt and my handle. It has a little bushing under it as well. Now remember that little pin's still in there and it can still come out on you. Now the tricky part here is taking these two little pins out of this trigger. Because when you take these two little pins out of this trigger, this front pin is holding this safety. This safety has a hole in it also that has to line up with. And you're going to have to line that back up with a small Allen wrench and drive that small Allen wrench out with your pin. And I don't like doing that because this kind of sucks. I'm going to use this small Allen wrench because I don't know where my punch is. I'll use use the Allen wrench that I'm going to use to line it back up. You just want to punch them out. There's one pin. See? That little pin and spring fell out. Hopefully there's not a ball bearing in there. I don't think it is. Got my punch just to get this started. Then we're going to go back to that small Allen wrench. Then all that beating and vibration knocked that bushing out of the hammer. Now, you got a little recessed side, and then you have a flat side. The flat side is where the spring goes against, and that recessed side goes up in the hammer. This pin does not want to come out of here, but it's going to. Now that moved. Now that I used a punch on it, there it went. I gotta find it. It's in this toolbox. So there you go, I found it. Now this trigger assembly comes right out of there. Now if you can see that right there, that safety, if you can see that safety, it has a hole in it as well that you have to line up when you put this trigger assembly back in. That thing has a hole in it itself, that safety does, and you have to line that back up. So it's not fun whatsoever to do. I didn't want to take it out, and when you this right here, you're gonna have to put your hammer in first. That's probably the problem you're having, is getting over this little sear right here. So if you take your hammer out, there's all your hammer parts just like that. If you take it out, you're going to want to put it back in first. I'm going to put another turn on my hammer spring. It's too hard to rack back. So with your hammer spring and all that, with your trigger and all that out, this all should, oops, this all should go back in a lot easier. There, now there's the bottom of your hammer. That goes towards your trigger. This takes a little bit of finesse here. Okay. Now, the fun part is putting all this back together, because you got to put that trigger assembly back in here, and it really sucks. So my hammer is in there, and I've got to line this. Safety hole back up on this safety right here. Back up in here, and this is not fun at all. So I'm going to push my hammer up out of the way. Let me get an Allen wrench that will fit in here to line this up. Yes, I'm going to line it up with an Allen wrench, because I can see down in the hole and I can see that the holes are lined up. Then I'm going to slap this pin back in here. Lightly tap it back in. The back pin hopefully goes in a lot better than it came out. Definitely does. You also have a pin here. You also have a pin here on the trigger assembly. Make sure it does not come out. Then you lose that thing. So now my hammer's in. All this stuff is back in. I can put this thing back together. So first thing I want to do is come over here so I can get these gears back in here. Or did we do that last? Yeah, I don't want to put this pin stuff in here right now because they might fall out again on me. So I want my hammer all the way up like it's closed. I want to put this actuating gear back in. We did not move the rod at all, so it should be good and in place. Center gear back out so we can get this on here and get everything lined up. Put these screws back in here. Get a better screwdriver for those because those were loose when I took it apart, and I want these tight. Now we close our bolt. We put our actuating, our gear in here. It's only going to go in. It's only going to go in the right way. It wouldn't let me close my bolt all the way. I mean, totally pushed up. So there's that. Now we can put this back plate back on so we can flip this guy around and work on the other side. These screws right here, you're going to want to work them slowly down, one at a time. Don't over tighten. Don't tighten one down and then go to the next one. You want to do it. You want to do them like in a sequence, like snug one down in the center here. Don't get it tight, just get it to where it's down. Then go to this outside one. Get where it stops itself. Go to this outside one. Stop itself, this outside one. Stop itself. You're not super tight down, you go straight plug out. So, clean breaks off my tools. Now I'm going to that first one, give it a little pump. So I'm going to a little bit. Now we can turn her back around here. Put that pin back in that come out of this little hole here. That's going to be the fun part too. Now we can push it down and get our bolt handle back on here, which was a 5 if I'm not mistaken. And it's holding that pin for me until I get ready to do this. Then there's that for this this little, I don't know what you would call this little action lever thing. goes right here. And when you put this in, you're going to have to pull your bolt back, because this goes on top of that little pin we just put in. So you're going to have to push that little pin in, push that in, then move your hammer in front of it to hold that little sear down. Then we can put our plate back over it, which only goes on one way also. Do not strip these bolts out, or you'll have to do like I did and tap them with the smallest size next you can go up, and then replace those screws. Now to put this bushing back inside the hammer, I use a small Allen wrench. Get it lined up in there and then drop it. Make sure it's in there right. Then you want then you can put your hammer spring and your back plate back on. I usually like to push my hammer on up in there. I use a bigger Allen wrench than the screw that's in there, so I can go and get it in up. And just pull your trigger and push that hammer up, and you'll hear it click, and it'll go on up there for you. Then you can put your hammer spring back in without a lot of tension. Now on that back plate, mine has an indentation where that set screw sits. So if you want to mark that to where you can stop where that set screw is, I would do that, because mine is scratched and marked, so I know where it is. Don't screw this back plate in too far. Don't leave it out too far. You want it flush with the back of your gun. And if it's flush and you have to turn to your mark to where that indentation was for that set screw, go ahead and turn it in a little until you get to that indentation mark, because you want this set screw right here in that indentation mark. Tighten your set screw back down. Do not over tighten any of these. Do not just put too much on them, because you'll strip all these things out. Okay? It should be good to go. My hammer spring is really tight now. I think I put too much on it. I'm going to have to back it out just a little. Marks that I have lined up, keeping my back plate as flush as I can with the back of the gun. Time to retighten this. That's about it. Tighten that back plate. Don't over tighten none of this stuff. It's still a little hard to cock back. I'm going to decock it instead of dry firing it. Okay, that should be good for you. You should be able to put your stock back on and your optic back on. Don't forget to put your air release screw back in. If you took your gauge out, put it back in after you put your screw back in. Making sure your O-ring's good. And man, that's about all I can do. And alright, thanks for watching.